These coots don't seem to get along very well. This is the Fraser Lake County Park. Off in the distance you can see the town of Fraser Lake. Or Fraser Park, I should say. Population is about 1,400, elevation 4,200 feet in the Los Padres National Forest. Today's date is November 30th. I'm going to send out tape number 42, I believe. That'll be the T-hole tape. Well, we're going into the Hungry Valley ORV area. You can see where all of the ORVs have been tracing the hills. On my way to Pyro Creek, there's a couple claims there that belong to GPAA. This is still the Los Padres National Forest area. On a weekend, you've got hundreds of motorcyclists and dune buggy enthusiasts. This is their area. Several thousand acres. Lots of hills. You can see the tracks. Oh, here's a juniper. These yucca plants are pretty abundant right here. I've never seen them so thick. They stalk, some of them are 7 feet tall. Give you an idea in size. Looks like great jackrabbit hunting country. I'm going back in about 15 miles, so I'll keep close check on the weather reports. Up here about 4,000 feet. Always possibilities of snow. This area here is also uplifted sea bottom. See the sand up here. But there's supposed to be gold in Pyro Creek. I'll take a look. It's a wonderful life, I'll tell you. Pure adventure. Looks like I thought that was a pack rat nest at first. Most of this road back in here is blacktop, so I shouldn't get my trailer too dirty. Repainted my wheels, chrome. They get a little shabby. I clean them off and retouch them. Got to keep up appearances, you know. You can't let things slide. Two more hours daylight. Gotta get down there and set up El Campo. Beautiful country. I like the this cut hill country. Easy hiking. Very interesting too. You could very possibly run across prehistoric sea animals in these sand dunes, since this was ocean bottom at one time. Los Padres National Forest. We're heading to a place called Gold Hill, and that's where the claim is located, on Pyro Creek. The route we just took, well, we'll start right here. Okay, we took the road down, around, up, and way back over the hill about 7 or 8 miles is Interstate 5 at Gorman, California. Give you a close-up of the hills here. This is the recreational vehicle area. Outside this area they can't cut up the hills like they do here. Quite a few quad runners I saw out here today. But a weekend these hills are just covered with bikers, quad runners, dune buggies. Well, we're going down here to Gold Hill, right here, and the road we are taking is Hungry Valley Road. This is the Hungry Valley State Vehicular Recreation Area, and the area I'm going in is restricted. They can't drive off the road in this area. Well, I camped in the motorcycle area last night. Tried getting up to the Gold Hill camp, but it was just a bit too much for the truck and trailer. The fellow over here works for the Forest Service. Just talked to him. He gave me a map of this area. See if I can find it in my pocket here. Nope, can't find it. These are the Tehachapi Mountains. We're in Hungry Valley right here. Very little water. I think that's why they probably call it Hungry Valley. Not much to eat or drink. The San Andreas Fault is over here about 4 miles. I'll go over and videotape that sometime. It's just over the hill here, about 4 miles. Well, right now we're going overland to Gold Hill Camp. I'll get up the top of this hill right here and I'll shoot a down video. It's the front of the map you gave me. Hungry Valley State Vehicular Recreation Area. On a weekend you'll have several thousand motorcyclists out in this area. Well, there's El Campo. The Rift Valley is over here. Highway or Interstate 5 is over here where you see this looks like a pyramid, big pyramid. Well, that section right there of the mountain was cut out so the expressway could be put in. Pretty rugged country up here. Los Angeles is over the hill about 40 miles. I can smell it. At night you can see the lights. The city is vast, stretches on forever. You can see the scarring on the hillsides from the bikers and RVers. Great place to bike ride though. A lot of hills, and dips and valleys. Oh, beyond the mountains is the Great Mojave Desert. The town of Mojave is about 50 miles off in this direction. Spec is a Jeep down there. I think he's lost. He's been taking all kinds of trails. Apparently he doesn't have a map. Finding a lot of motorcycle parts, especially in some of these real steep areas like here. Snapped off part of his brake handle. See the camp way down there. Trailer. Well, there must be a spring right here. These are the only cottonwood trees I can see for miles. Yellow trees. No motor vehicles. Looks like someone hit the fence right here. They don't use barbed wire around the vehicle area. Use piano wire about neck high. Yeah, they hit this fence with such force they bent the steel pole. Really hurt. Well, these hills are a little too up and down for me, so I'm going to take the easy way. This is the Gold Hill Road, taking me right into where I'm going. Probably shouldn't be showing this, you'll think I'm turning into a wimp. Yeah, I'll tell you, get up, what we got here. It's kind of a hawk. I'm not sure what kind it is. Get up the top of these hills, and then it's almost straight down on the backside. Just a bit much. This is probably beautiful area in the spring. I can see where springtime these would be flowers. Now they're seed heads. Hills are just covered. And the yucca plants are probably out, or the blossoms. There's just millions of those plants all through the hills. Don't see much deer sign. I think the motorcyclist in this area back here pretty well chase them out. Tremendous amount of coyote sign though. This area up here, the other side of the ridge, is closed to motorcycles, so might be able to videotape some wildlife. Did see a baby jackrabbit a little while ago. Here you can see the sea bottom sand. People have been leaving their signatures. Well, far below you can see the cars on I-5. Finger up there, right tip of my finger. Big semis. Usually takes me about an hour to walk 3 or 4 miles. And I've got 5 miles to go, so I've got about another 15 minutes to Gold Hill Camp. If you look very, very closely, there's 2 mountain lions mating up on this rock. You see them? This is what us prospectors like to see. Mineralized quartz. This is where you find your gold, silver, copper, platinum. The staining is iron staining. Now, when you find this, you start looking for your non-ferrous metals. And down below is Pyro Creek. This must have been a very short-legged coyote we have here. So this rock formation reminds me of the ones in the Chiricahua National Monument, Cochise country. This is pretty rugged country back in here. It took me about 2 hours to walk back in. Hopefully I'll be able to hitchhike out. I've been seeing vehicles going by me, driving out. But I'm always ready to walk if I have to. Well, just over this rise is Gold Hill Camp. Fairly nice road right here going in. I could easily get my trailer in. Well, there isn't much here, but I don't need much. There's a picnic table over there. I'm sure some of the bike groups that get in here really rip these places up. This is Hell's Angels country. They put up all these signs, but don't pay any attention to them. See what the stream's like down here. This is Pyro Creek, P-I-R-U. One of the GPAA claims starts up here, 480 acres. Runs about 3 miles along the stream. The other claim down here around the bend is 80 acres. It runs a mile. Now, they used to have an outhouse here, but apparently old sabotage. Get some real scuzzballs up in these areas. Trash. Seat. There's small houses. That's pretty rugged. See a path going down over here. Lots of bedrock. The backlight here. Good water flow. Looks like people have been digging up here for color, gold. Stream probably ran up here at one time. A lot of stream stone. Boy, these are nasty little buggers to touch with your pant leg or your hand. You draw blood instantly. This one's about 3 feet across and a foot and a half high. Extremely sharp. I learned about these things in quartzite very quickly. All you do is just touch them with your leg, even through your pants. They cut right through. This is called Spanish knife. Very appropriate name for it. Got quite a group of folks down here. I wonder if they're GPAA members. I run into members all the time. These are all fairly new vehicles, probably retired folks. Well, here's an old piece of mining equipment. It's called a grizzly concentrator. Put the big rocks and all the material on the top, separate it through the screens. They were working the bank at one time right here. Someone put a lot of work in over here, separating rocks and gravel. Possibly I might come back and check this out down here, use my sluice box. At least I know what this place is like. That's some nice bedrock. I wonder if anybody was sitting on this when somebody touched off that shotgun. Looks like a real nice, safe place to be. The way this place has been trashed, I'll tell you, it's some pretty risque clientele down here. Saw a big flock of bluebirds a little earlier. I don't think I'll go down. Looks pretty treacherous. Stand up here and see what there is to see. Didn't bring my gold pans, so no sense walking down there. I wonder if this is ice down here. I have to hit that backlight. Sure does look like ice. It's been cold enough. This is probably in perpetual shade down here too. Well, I decided to come down. I had to see if this was ice or not. It's ice. Now up on top, in the sunshine, it's in the 70s. Down here, the angle of the winter sun, it probably isn't hitting down here at all. The water's probably just about as cold. Oh, God. Dredging is open year-round down here, but you'd have to have a heater on your suit. You've got warm water heaters that you can attach to your diving suit through the engine. Circulates the water. Doesn't look like real good gold gravel here. It's basically sand. Raccoon track. Boy, people have been doing a lot of work up here. Good Lord. Making tunnels. I don't find anything, but they sure have done a lot of work. Going through the roots of these trees. This is a big cottonwood right here. I think what they're doing is using probably dry washers down in here. This is good, pretty good gold gravel here, this stuff. Looks like they unearthed an artifact. The rim of a wheel of some type. Well, during the summertime, it's probably nice here. Nice sand beach. Water's probably cool. Go up there and take a high dive into 4 inches of water. Interesting. It is kind of pretty down here, but pretty remote too. Someone had a dry washer set up, or I should say a sluice box set up right here. I can always tell by the way the rocks are positioned, because that's exactly how I set mine up too. I had a sluice box set up here, modern day. Stuff's solid. Oh, real good water flow here. What they probably did was screened off material they got up here and brought it down in buckets, run it through the sluice box. Well, I'm going to start out of here before the sun goes down. I always bring a long sleeve shirt. I'll flip the camera around. I've got my khaki shirt on. Getting a real good tan. cancer. Yeah, this is pretty. Rock formations. You probably had Indian encampments down here too. Any place you had water and game, you had the Indians. Well, someone started dredging a hole here, suction dredge. They cast the rocks off to the side. Well, like I say, this water is probably ice in August, if there's that much of it. They were digging back over in here too. All of this activity is modern day. No telling what the 49ers did down here. Well, I lucked out. These folks driving off here just gave me a ride back from, well, I was just leaving Gold Hill. Back here at camp, I set up my solar water heater. I can see a hot shower in my immediate future. Yeah, that sun would have gone down before I got back easily. Not very often I get to see myself actually video. Well, this will work pretty good. Take my bag, hang it up there in my rope. As long as nobody comes in from the rear. I'll put my my AstroTurf mat down there to stand on. And I want to take it quick because that sun is just about ready to hit the horizon. Once that happens, she really gets cold. I like these old camp shelters. The tables are about the most durable picnic table I've ever seen for a public camping area. They're all metal. There's no carving into them like most of them are. Actually, this is metal covered with plastic. Well, take a shower. We won't film the shower episode. Nice and warm in here. Well, this is December 2nd. On the road again. I thought I'd get out of this motorcycle area here before the people start pulling in. There's supposed to be several hundred, maybe 1,000 motorcyclists in here. This early Saturday morning. I was talking to one of the rangers, and he said it gets pretty scary in here. You get a lot of people in here who just go start raving mad on those bikes. A few big RVs pulled in last night with enclosed trailers in tow with, well, some of them had as many as 8 motorcycles and RVs in those trailers. Yeah, I've pretty well looked over that claim back there, so I'm going to head over to Mojave, go back up to Robber's Roost. I want to do a little more checking for the Vasquez treasure trove. I think first, though, I'm going to stop just the other side of Gorman, which is over the hill, and videotape the San Andreas Fault. The temperature last night was 34. Got a group of motorcyclists over here with their tents and pickups. Most of them bring their RVs and that sort of thing in trailers or the back of pickups. Oh, there goes my glove box door. Never did fix that thing. Well, so long for now. This is Charles Perrault on the road. Well, as you can see, find my finger here. Here's the San Andreas Fault running right through here. Now this is Quail Lake, and water is filled in the crack in the earth, and you'll see that in just a minute. Here's a little town of Gorman, just a couple miles down the road. And I was camping over in here in the motorcycle area. But San Andreas, if you're high up in a plane, is very distinct. But to look at it from here, it's really hard to tell. But where you see Quail Lake down below, it's extremely deep, and it's a crack in the earth. San Andreas Fault runs right down through here. This, all the lowland is the fault. So several million years from now, this guy's house, or the remnants of it, will be up in off the coast of Washington. Because this slice of land that I'm standing on is moving up the coast of California at the rate of several feet per year. This is like the Rift Valley in Kenya and Tanzania, only the Rift Valley is much bigger. The walls are 2,000 feet high, and the crack in the earth is about 20 to 30 miles wide. But if we were up in a plane high up, you would distinctly see the San Andreas Fault. And that's your geology lesson for this morning. Now this is another view of the San Andreas Fault. Runs right down through the lowest portion of the land that you see. Actually, we're right in the fault here. The entire width from this hill to this hill right here is the fault line. Actually, these small hills take in the fault line too. And out beyond all of this flat land out here is the beginning of the Mojave Desert. The Mojave Desert does have mountains in it. Edwards Air Force Base, where the space shuttle lands, is right over here, about 20 miles. And the town of Mojave is 40 miles toward Soledad Mountain. Kind of like to stay up in this area, wait for the next shuttle landing. I'll try to videotape it if they allow the public in. Edwards Air Force Base on the Rogers Salt Flat, Rogers Lake actually. What amazes me about California, you can go from pine-covered mountains, drive 4 miles, and you're in back in the desert, Joshua trees. across the road over here, and you've got sagebrush flats. Good jackrabbit hunting in these flats. You know what's surprising? Here you are out in a desert. The land is basically useless unless you irrigate it. And they want $1,000, $2,000 an acre. That's what you get for prime farmland in Michigan. The Mojave Desert is being changed, though. They're putting in a lot of pine tree windbreaks. I've seen a lot of apple orchards, dwarf trees. But once you turn off the water, the trees are dead. Out here they have to be irrigated. Because once the water is turned off, you end up with your sagebrush, scrub, and Joshua trees. Coming up here, you're going to see the effects of the air, or the effects of the coal-burning plants out here on the atmosphere. You don't get those long vistas like you used to 100 years ago, or even 50. You see that white haze right there? That's all from burning coal. You magnify that several million times during the year worldwide. It's no wonder they're afraid of the greenhouse effect. Jackrabbit. Yeah, he was sitting in this brush right here, and he just couldn't stand it any longer. Had to move. They're a lot of fun to hunt out here. They're such a big rabbit to begin with. Plus you get long shots, rifle shots. Well, I'll give you some views of the town of Mojave. 2,500 people. Elevation is also 2,500. This is the main thoroughfare right here, connecting different expressways. You see the wind generators off in the background. I think they've added a few hundred extra since I was here last time. You have to remember these are probably 100 feet high. The propellers are, well, maybe 60 feet across. They are big. This strip is basically gas stations and restaurants, car parts. Now the side streets, residential areas are pretty quiet once you get off the main drag. Almost all the buildings are one story. A lot of adobe, brick. Every building has its share of air conditioners. I'm going through the Red Rock Canyon country north of Mojave. Went through here last year too. The sun isn't quite right for good video. Too many shadows. This is all uplifted sea bottom. Well, picked up groceries, gassed up the truck, and heading for Robber's Roost. Off in the distance you can see the Mojave Desert, that flat out there. Well, there's the old Robber's Roost. I have to hurry up before it gets dark. There's the quarter moon and Venus, evening star. And here's Robber's Roost, faintly outlined. Down below, I guess you really can't make it out. Over here is Ridgecrest. Zoom in on the lights. Of course, you saw this last December. About 25,000 people down there. Well, today is Sunday morning, December 3rd. The sun has just peeked over the El Paso Mountains. There's Black Mountain. Black Mountain is a very religious area for the ancient Indians. There's a lot of artifacts up there. Protected by the state of California, though. Try to keep people out. And here's Robber's Roost. I'm going to concentrate my search around this rock formation because at the base of it is the wash that went down to the old stagecoach line where it cut the line. And this is where the Vasquez and many other robbers had their camp right here, or camp area. Of course, I touched on all this last year, but I'll give you a refresher course. I was here last December 13th through the 30th, I think. Set my camp up in the same place in the leeward side of this rock formation to cut the Santa Ana winds when they come down through here. Walker Pass is right behind this rock formation, and the winds come down Walker Pass. It's pretty hard to sleep at night if you aren't sheltered. Below is Ridgecrest. It's the base town for the China Lake Naval Weapons Center. It's rather interesting. The Navy has a desert testing range for weapons. Trailer doesn't look level, but it is. It's a kind of a crazy angle on that hillside. Good rabbit country right here, jackrabbits. The town of Mojave is down this way about 25 miles. The old fellow who keeps check on this section of the LA water aqueduct is still down here at the Oasis down here. He, when I saw him last December, he said he was going to retire in March, but he's still working. I'm going to be glad to go down and visit him. I stopped in last night when I drove up here to see if he was still living there, and he's still there, but he was in town. Now this is a yucca, some type of yucca. I'll have to look him up. Pretty in the springtime. They've got the white flowers clustered up on top. Now, as I mentioned last year, well, several years ago, a guy was metal detecting up here, and he found $60,000 in gold and silver coins, and that was face value. It was the numismatic value was just a little over $1 million. That was part of robber loot. Now, I've been thinking myself, if I was a bandito back then, I wouldn't have buried my loot on the back side like the one fellow did, or group. I would have gone back here in the hills, away from this area, and buried my loot. I'm going to metal detect these, all of these peaks, and then down through the valleys where I find a prominent looking rock that could be recognized. If you came back months later to pick up your loot, you could find your stash. I'll metal detect all those areas. Yeah, the old stage line was down here about half a mile. The banditos would sit up here, and they could see the stage coming for 20 miles with a dust trail. They'd all hop on their horses and go on down, be sitting on their horses right down in the wash where the stagecoach couldn't see them. When the stage popped down into that wash, that was it. Got them. There were many robberies that were originated from this rock outcrop right here. But Vasquez was one of the worst ones. Just time after time, him and his Mexican banditos robbed the stages. Well, I haven't had my coffee yet, and I haven't had breakfast, and my fingers are freezing. It's about 32 right now. But the afternoon temperature is really fantastic. It gets up in the 70s. I put my 2 sleeping bags through the laundry yesterday and took out a couple seams, so I'll have to do some sewing today. And got a big spread on my last 3 slices. I usually bake 3 loaves, lasts me a week. I'm not going to put my awning out up here because when that wind picks up, it just shoots around the side of this, and it's enough to tear your awning right off. I get all the TV stations. It'll be a nice day. Beautiful. Tried to pick up one of these Kneale digital watches down at Kmart in Mojave, but they don't have any more. Now they're less than $3, and if you have those up in your Kmart, make a nice stocking stuffer. This is what they look like. I usually pay about $2.97. Kmart usually has them. Oh, that wasn't a hint. That wasn't a hint. Oh, I found out that when I take the sun shots, it didn't affect the light sensor. The reason I was losing my lighting in the video camera viewfinder was the fact that the wires had frayed off on my battery power pack. So that's fixed now. This weather is quite a switch from the rainforests of Northern California. I love this right here. See for miles. Bright sunny days. It's always warm in the afternoon, except when it's cloudy. I use my lantern for light in the evening when I read, and saves my electricity for television and charging my batteries for the metal detector and the radio. Flashlight. I always overflow this. You need some kind of a gauge so you can see how much fuel you got in there. It's full. I could heat my trailer with a lantern. I'll tell you that puts out a lot of heat. I used to heat my fish shanty with a lantern. Had the light turned down. Wonder how the ice fishing is up there. Last time I went, John took me out just off Jeff Stamper's place out there. Got some real nice bluegills. Big pumpkin seed. Not much fishing out here. The only running water in this area would be the LA aqueduct which runs down below here, and that's about 20 feet wide, 10 feet deep. Water comes from up north where they get the snow melt. And then the Colorado River over here, and then Quail Lake, which is on the San Andreas Fault. That's about it. Oh, this section of the LA aqueduct, they're going to drain it and do some major work in sections. And whenever they drain these aqueducts, they're always finding stolen cars. People drive into it to hide them. Well, actually, the car is ruined because it's underwater for years. And occasionally they find bodies. Find all kinds of stuff in those aqueducts. They're all cement lined. Tremendous volume of water goes through there. That's so people in LA can flush their toilets. And fill their swimming pools. Boy, I like that view. Wish I could have seen it 120 years ago. Stagecoach coming up. Band of Paiutes over here. U.S. Army camel train going through. They used to use camels in this area to transport supplies. Didn't last long though. It's because Congress wouldn't finance it. Initially it was just an experiment. They even brought in camel drivers from, I think it's Saudi Arabia, but at that time it was called something else. And when the experiment ended, the camels were turned loose out on the desert, and they survived for years, and the Indians and the locals ended up killing them all off. Shot them. Read in the paper the other day down at Long Beach. I'm going to give you a different angle on the camera here. Getting hot, I had to put on a short sleeve shirt. What's the weather like up there? I know you're saying, that asshole, he's teasing us about our weather again. Yeah, I might have to put out my awning. It's going to be pretty warm today. You guys shovel any snow yet? I'll stop. It is nice out here though. Move with the sun. It's the only way a person should live. Oh, as I was saying, over at Long Beach, the Safari Club International is having its award ceremonies, and Roy Weatherby Jr. was giving out the awards, and they had a group of antis that snuck in there, and they're unfurling banners and raising verbal hell. So these hunters grabbed a hold of these people and threw them right out in the street. I'll tell you, in the end, these people are going to they're going to create a race of humans who are completely civilized. These people won't know how to hunt. They won't know how to fish. If society collapsed, they'd be the first to go because the supermarkets would be bare. They'd have all this game out here in the vast countryside, they wouldn't know how to get it. Hunters and people, outdoorsmen would be the ones who survived, not these limp-wristed LA faggots. Generally, I don't talk to myself, I only talk to you folks through the camera. But I did meet a prospector my age from Reno. His last name was Chase. And I met him up at Saratoga, and he had a dredge. And I showed him this claim over on one of these small streams just up the Klamath, so he could put his dredge in. That guy was really talking to himself, and I don't know, when I see that in a younger person, I generally like to sneak away. He might not have been dangerous, but I don't take my chances with people. It isn't the land and the animals that will get me out here. If anything does, it'll be one of these nuts. I ran into a guy and a woman down there at Gold Hill Camp the other day, and he had long hair, greasy, very dirty, a lot of tattoos, and his girlfriend, I guess, she looked like she was in her, she might have been 20, but she looked 40, and she was totally spaced out, and they were begging me to bring my trailer and my pickup and all my stuff down there and set up camp next to them. Well, I've read too many articles out here of people getting caught with other people's driver's licenses, and these other people have disappeared. These folks will be driving the guy's trailer, RV, they've got the guy's credit cards, and nothing is ever found of the owner of the rig. So if I see a situation that I don't feel comfortable with, I avoid it. I don't get into it. I feel if a person doesn't physically take care of themselves, stay clean and have a decent vocabulary, I'm leery of them. Well, that sounds bright. Of course, I'm kind of looking right into it. Well, I'm going to get my chores done around the trailer today. Got to bake bread, sew my sleeping bag. A lot of little odds and ends. And I think tomorrow I'll start metal detecting. Sleep like a baby up here. I didn't hear anything. I couldn't hear traffic or anything down there. Well, even right now you can't hear cars on the expressway. Occasionally you hear a plane. That's about it. Then I'll see jets taking off down here from China Lake. Good coffee. Now, 150 years ago, you could have been sitting here and invisible, of course, and watched Vasquez and his men getting ready to swoop down on those poor Wells Fargo employees. I can picture a man with a Winchester standing up on top of that one little peak over here, waiting for the morning stage. I love Western history, and I know Dad does too. And I'm sure John and Dennis do, because they've been around it all their lives with Dad's gun collecting and his books. But there's nothing like being here, you know, actually walking in those places where all this history took place. Of course, being a latecomer, but still the land, basically the land doesn't change. You still have the same hills and the same gullies and ravines and canyons, plains. What I'm looking at out here is basically what they saw back in the 1850s, 60s, and 70s. Only now I look down and I see a semi going by. This gold operation the guys started down here in Indian Wells Valley is a little bigger this year. It seems to be spreading out. Gold is down deep. They've got a shaft going down. Whenever I see these books and some of the strap out of the way here. I use these books as my reference material. These are my Bibles, my study books. I have yet to find nuggets like this, though, with a metal detector. But they are there, and they do find them. And I buy a lot of treasure hunting books. They always have maps in the back. It's a great hobby. It could be profitable, but haven't been into the Superstition Mountains yet. I'm going to check out the Lost Dutchman Mine. It's quite an area. This is called Kneale Rock. A lot of nice treasure hunting stories in these books. I do find a lot of things metal detecting, but looking for buried treasure is like looking for a needle in a haystack. These books deal with treasure all over the United States, and when I'm in a certain area that has a write-up, then I'll check that area out. I buy these treasure hunting magazines. It's good reference material. It gives you a basic knowledge of what could be there. Now this book here is a very interesting story. The Paiute Indians, when they died, always buried a lot of valuables with the dead, and I guess they dealt with gold and silver out here. They worked with it, so there's probably a lot of silver artifacts buried with the dead. Paiute Indians pretty well dominated this part of California. And the Chiricahua Apaches pretty well had the Tombstone, Arizona area. I've found a lot of signs of where the Indians had been in this area here. Like down in Freeman Wash, which is down here, I found the grinding stone areas. They had like half a dozen grind holes on top of big granite boulders, and I videotaped that last year. You saw that. Got a case of Geronimo's Revenge today. I think my cooking has finally caught up with me. I goughed down a few tablespoonfuls of kale pectate, which I haven't had to use yet on this trip, but I'm glad I had it. Well, I'm warming up my metal detector. They've got a new one out. It's a computerized digital readout on the face of it. Instead of having the needle readout, which I have here, the new one is a digital, and it's supposed to be a better system. But I think I'll keep using this. This unit here ran, when I bought it new, ran about 550. And I've got 3 different size heads. I've got the 4-inch, this is the 7, and I've got the 12. That 12-inch will go down as deep as 6 feet on a big target. That's a lot of digging. The new digital runs about 700, which is quite an investment. I won't be shooting as much video here because I shot a lot last year in this location. I'll shoot the new subjects, though, things that I haven't had on tape yet. Well, do some metal detecting. I'm going to go up in this area just over the rise again. I'll check that out a little closer this year. So long for now. Looks like the ears of a coyote up there. It's 2 points. Well, I didn't quite finish my drying at the laundromat, so I'm drying out my sleeping bag and airing my cushions. Well, I just found something laying here, an OD Winchester shotgun shell. I haven't seen OD before. Something I haven't noticed out here is one insect, not one. I've had some pretty hard freezes. I think it cleaned them out. Well, there was a 4.5 earthquake a couple nights ago, about 50 miles off in this direction. I didn't feel anything. I hope these rock formations are stable. Need to have one turn over on my trailer. A lot of treasure stories in this area. Like I mentioned last year, giving you a review. Oh, I'm going to do some metal detecting over here in these green stained hills. Now that's hornblende, and you can find gold mixed in with the hornblende. There is some mining activity over there, which probably predates 1900, and might pick up some artifacts. Well, back in 1853, I think it was, they had the stagecoach stop in Freeman Gulch down here that washed out in a flash flood. Unfortunately, the stagecoach, with its strongbox, was taken down the gulch. Never did find the strongbox. And then back in about 1910, they had a bridge down here that crossed Freeman's Gulch. And apparently the pilings underneath were being washed out during a flood, and one of the wagons that took ingots down to Mojave crossed it, and it was too heavy, and that went into the floodwaters, and all that silver and gold was lost. If these stories are to be believed, let's check them out anyway. Who knows? If they're true, if I were to pick something up, I would be completely silent about the whole thing, because there'd be taxes. Also, this being on Bureau of Land Management property, the federal government would have to get its cut. So I would get rid of it just as secretively as possible. I know that's not honest, but we've got a lot of crooked politicians too. I guess I could justify being secretive about what I found. Yeah, a lot of politicians should be making license plates. Well, I'll tell you, once the sun goes behind that rock right there, she cools right off. We're gonna have a beautiful sunset tonight. I think I'm gonna climb up top here and get the sunset. That rock cast quite a big shadow. See the outline of the shadow right here. Well, I only found 9 $20 gold pieces today, and 4 gold ingots, 7 Winchesters, 2 Colts, and the body of Quantrell skeleton. No, I just found an old Peters shotgun brass. Nothing else worth mentioning. A lot of nails. But I enjoy doing it. Go out every single day. I had a lot of company today. People up here taking pictures, and a couple guys are up plinking. A couple motorcyclists. Just finished boiling potatoes. I'm letting my bread rise, cooked bread. Temperature got up to 62 in the shade, and a lot warmer than that in the sunshine. Getting a darker tan every day. Of course, we all know that getting a dark tan is no longer healthy. Well, I've got my bread in the oven, so I'm going to shoot the sunset from down here. The cloud cover isn't quite as heavy as it was earlier, so we won't have the colors I thought we'd have. Lights are just coming on in the city below. See the business district way off You see most of the lights. Business district. The shopping malls are right through here. And just behind the shopping malls and the mountain is the China Lake Naval Weapons Center. And behind the next mountain is Nevada. Well, finish up my bread. I always like to eat the noses when they're still hot at the end of the loaf. Good morning. This is December 4th. I'm going to go up around this peak up here and do some metal detecting around the different rock outcrops. See what I can come up with. But I'm going to have to leave you guys in camp here with Abdullah. Could be pretty rugged. If I see something terribly interesting, I'll take the video camera up there. Well, in my pack I've got my lunch, canteen, compass in my pocket, artillery, stray Paiutes. What else have I got? Extra batteries for my metal detector, 2 quarts of water, a heavy wool shirt, big plastic garbage bag in case it rains. I use that for a raincoat. Binoculars. I have to get my entrenching tool. I use that to dig things up with. And time to go. Turn the camera off, Abdullah. See you later. This is the morning of December 5th. Just had a tremendous explosion down here at the gold mine down below me. I hope it was deliberate, not accidental. Well, yesterday, back in the hills, found a copper deposit. And many times when you have copper, you also have microscopic gold mixed in with it. See that kind of a greenish blue turquoise tinge? That's a sign that there's copper in this rock. I marked the deposit with orange survey tape. I always carry that with me just in case I find something like this. What I'll do is crush this down into a powder and pan the powder out and see if there's any gold or platinum or silver with it. Many times with copper you'll have other metals: gold, silver, tungsten, platinum, iron. Well, I'm going to found a few interesting things up there. I'll take the camera up and put them on video. I'll go to this first hilltop up here and give you a back view of these rock formations here. Then I'll show you a heavily mineralized quartz deposit. No gold, unfortunately. Beautiful morning. I got up this morning and the coldest it got last night was 55. It's supposed to be in the 70s today. Oh, there's an interesting quartz deposit over there. We'll walk over and do some video. One thing I always try to do out here is not to walk on roads. Just don't find anything interesting walking on the road. I always try and cut across the country, go where no man has gone before. You find interesting things by getting off the road. Might have some weather coming in here. Got some cloud cover off to the west. I'm waiting for one of the jets to come streaking just over my my head like they did yesterday. Make some good video. They're a bunch of Top Gunners. They travel faster than the speed of sound, so generally before I even realize they're there, they've gone over. And then a few seconds later, the sound wave hits me. But the let's say the jet will be right here, and I don't realize they're there until the sound wave, which is back here, gets up here, and then I realize they're there, but by that time they're over here. It's pretty complicated. Little mining activity done over here in the past. I see where they went into this hillside. Let's take a look. Anytime you have discoloration in a hillside, like this hill right here is kind of a shade of green, you always check for minerals. The blonde colored hills, like this one here, you wouldn't have any, possibly wouldn't have any minerals there, but you never know. But the dark rusty colored and green colored hills are ones to always check out, full hillocks. Just south of Mojave, about 10 years ago, a fellow just like myself, out prospecting, found a mountain. What would be, let's see, about the size of this one right here. The entire mountain was consisted of granite and microscopic gold. He sold the mineral rights for several mil and sold it to a big corporation, and that's all the work he had to do. The corporation went in initially and estimated the value. And the same thing happened north of Parker, Arizona. One of the biggest gold mines in North America is operating there right now. And this is 4 years ago that the prospector found that deposit. Very minute flakes of gold. He did some tests, and the entire plateau was impregnated with gold dust. There's El Campo. This quartz deposit over here is very impressive. Now normally this quartz would be pure white, but since it has a lot of iron mixed in with it, it's rusty. When you have mineralized quartz like that, sometimes you'll have precious metals along with it. Sure, this deposit's been checked 100 times before, but I shall be the 101st to check it. This right here is quite a formation. A little quartz. Like I say, normally it would be pure white. Normally, quartz would look like this. When you get a lot of mineralization in the quartz, now there's a lot of cinnabar in this, and generally cinnabar and gold are associated. There's a pack rat's nest right here. They make their nest out of pieces of creosote bush. Anything that attracts their attention, they'll pick up and add to the pile. Here's the skull of a jackrabbit. Part of a cow's bone, someplace in the skeleton. They pick up all kinds of little stones that catch their fancy. They'll pick up gold nuggets, shell casings, coins, anything out of the ordinary. Underneath this pile, they've got a hole that goes down in, and they live underground. Here he's got his toilet. Do some metal detecting around here, see what I come up with. I'll look for Indian arrowheads too, because a place like this, the Indians would hold as something special, sacred. I haven't seen another quartz deposit like this in all my travels. This is really exceptional. One time before it started breaking down, it was probably like a tower of quartz going up. Now over here, I don't know how long ago it was, but we started a prospect pit, digging in to see if they could uncover a vein someplace. See their tailings right here. Now, something like this, there could be a gold vein, but it could have been pinched off like 2 feet or 20 feet or 200 feet underground. And you would have to put a shaft into this deposit in order to come up with something, if there was anything. The old fellow that lives down here in the Oasis, I left him a note saying that I was back, and he's still there. His dogs are still there. So apparently he didn't retire from the LA Aqueduct administration. But I haven't seen any lights on at night down there. His car's gone. Before I leave, though, I'll try and get a hold of him. He's responsible for this section of LA water system that runs through here. I'll look around here for quartz crystals too. People go nuts over those down at Quartzsite. They buy them. Big ones you can get $20, $30. Small ones usually go for a couple bucks. Well, after an hour of metal detecting, checked out all the local pack rat nests. It's probably my 100th tobacco can. I think most of these tobacco cans are depression years. And two 7mm Mauser Winchesters. And here's a Peters 30-06 Springfield. And here's a Norma US 30 caliber. And here's the older style Peters number 12 high velocity. You can see the P stamped around the primer. I'm not sure when they made these, but possibly before my time. The brass is extra high. And here's a Winchester Expert 16 gauge. Piece of metal. And here's a part of a desert tortoise shell. It was in a pack rat nest. The desert tortoise is endangered. People see them crawling along and they'll pick them up, take them home. A lot of these motorcyclists out here, they're kids, and they're pretty destructive. They destroy archaeological sites, and they'll run over those turtles. I found a lot of them just smashed. And some of these archaeological sites, they'll fence off. The U.S. government fences them off, and these kids go in, rip the fence down, and they have these stone designs that the Indians spread out on the plains, and they'll spread these stones all over, just completely destroy the site. I think if I came upon a group doing that, I'd load up my shotgun and bury them all right there on the spot. Fertilizer. I get very bitter toward people like that. The old Freeman Gulch stagecoach station is down here. It used to be a spring, still is a spring actually. And if you can believe the story, that's where the stagecoach was washed down during a flash flood. $100,000 in gold and silver. So after I check out Robert's Roost a couple more days, I'll move the trailer down here. Check this out. Over the years, people with metal detectors have found pistols and parts of the wagon, horse bones. I think there were 4 or 5 people who also drowned during that flash flood. Well, I'm going to head back over, have some lunch. Then I'll check out the other side of Rubber's Roost. Now, according to my books, I was reading this morning, 2 stashes of loot have been found around Rubber's Roost, metal detectors. Boy, I had one scream over here a little while ago. Scares the hell out of you. Standing over here. Actually, I was walking over, just metal detecting over here. And that sucker, he just barely scraped through here, and I could see the logo on his t-shirt. No. God, it's impressive though, when they fly that low. It's just a scream. You have to cover your ears. Well, I'm going to sit here, read a book, have my video camera ready. I'm going to try and get one of those guys in low. I'm going to read Gold, Guns, and Gallantry, written by the fellow in Forest Hill. I can see where a jet cut a path through this cloud. Well, the sun is slowly dipping behind Rubber's Roost. I think I'm going to have a windy night, getting some stiff breezes through here occasionally. Looks like they're getting a big sandstorm down there in Mojave. Kind of white against the mountains. This is the morning of December 6th, and I lived through the big blowout. Blew my chairs over, a wash basin. I've got 4 socks. There's one, and the other socks are out here someplace. I'm going to have to find them. Blew my doormat over here. I think I slept all of 4 or 5 hours last night. Snapped off 2 sections of my antenna. I'm going to buy a new antenna. It's a different type. You can adjust it from the inside of the trailer. Well, pick up the pieces and start all over again. Lucky I didn't lose my table. Old Mr. Barker came up last night. Fellow that lives down here in the Oasis. He's on disability. Oop, here comes Jet. He's 71. Doesn't get around very good anymore. I thought that Jet was going to come screaming out here, but I guess not. I'll try and get some more of the Jets on video today. Well, I'll tell you, when they come in just along the tip of these rock formations, it's really impressive. The darn things are about 40 feet long. They're two-man fighter jets. My God, can they scream? When they come over, you have to plug your ears. You can channel your eardrums. There's another sock. Well, finish my coffee, eat some breakfast, juice up the metal detector, and today I'm going to try the back side over here. Well, a rancher came up to visit this morning. He saw that bright white object up next to the rock from the highway, and he thought he'd come up and investigate. Thought maybe somebody's putting up billboards up here. Santa Ana winds are picking up. It's supposed to hit 40 today. Usually when the wind picks up like this, the jet activity dies down. That low elevation flying gets pretty dangerous during windy conditions. Hit a wind shear and end up in a cliff. I'm going to climb up here today and give you a back view of the area I'm in. Well, I have another theory on the Vasquez bandit loot. I think I might be right. Initially, I thought they had their camp up in the main rock formation of Robber's Roost. Then I began to think that if the stage was coming out from Mojave down here, and they had their camp up here, and riding down into the wash down here, there's a good chance they would have been detected shining metal in the sunlight or dust or whatever. So my new theory is they had their camp down here in this wash, and they had a guy stand up here, look for dust from the stagecoach, and when they saw the stagecoach coming, they went down the wash to where the stagecoach route dipped down into the wash, and they were all set. And then I thought, well, where are they going to hide their stash? Generally, there's so much of it that they would divvy up a good amount between each one of them, and any surplus they bury so they wouldn't be caught with the whole thing. And I thought, well, they had their camp down here, so possibly after robbing the stage, they'd come back up the wash, buried down here. Well, I found a sign where there's an excellent possibility that's what they did. And then after they left their campsite, they went up the wash, crossed over the top, and then took the mountain canyons down into Mexico or Sacramento or points east. And by doing that, they would avoid any possibility of running into the posse or the U.S. Cavalry, which would be coming up here through Indian Wells Valley. But I'll show you what I found down there, and all of this is pure speculation on my part, but I kind of like to fabricate these little things. Theory, I guess. Now what they possibly could have done was have a man standing where I'm standing right now. The stagecoach would have come up out of the Mojave area through here and come down through here. And they put up a lot of dust, so they could have seen it coming for 20 miles. They had their camp down here, right in the wash. Took their horses down, intersected the stagecoach line down here. And being right down in the wash, which was pretty deep, the stage driver never would have seen him until he was practically down in the wash, and then it was too late. What I found over here is pretty interesting. That goes along with the rest of my thinking. That's where the fellow would have been standing, right here. And you could have had a couple of them just sitting up here, shooting bull. This is pretty interesting. It's the only situation like this I've seen. Now, I'm sure the guys didn't have shovels, Vasquez and his men, so they had to have a place that was real easy to dig with your hands. No rocks. Well, what I think is very possibly they buried their surplus loot right here. And then someone came along in the last few years and dug her up, because this is the only depression like this that I've seen around here. And it looks like somebody broke the handle on possibly a shovel. Wood's pretty well aged. That was laying back over here initially. This hole probably was deeper. Sides have caved in over the years. Well, 2 stashes of bandit loot have been found in this rock formation. The other place, I think, was up here. I found another big dig. But after thinking about this, well, you know, I was here last December. If you want to watch more of this, go back to last December's tape. It's labeled Robber's Roost in Ukern. But I was thinking about their campsite locations all winter, and this kind of popped into my head. And I checked out the view from here and the concealment. You know, once they were seen and they realized this, the gig was up. So if they'd had their camp up here, very likely they would have been seen coming down the hillside to go into the wash, and they realized that. So to have total concealment, they just made their camp right here in the wash. I'm going to do a lot more metal detecting in here. If I come up with artifacts that possibly could prove me right. And then after they left their camp, they rode their horses right up this wash, crossed over the saddle, then either went up through Walker Pass, which I doubt, because that's where the stagecoach eventually would have gone up to Isabella. But what I think they did was went up over the saddle, then went south and cut through the mountains, possibly to Sacramento or one of the Sacramento Valley towns. Or they could have gone right through the Tehachapis down into Old Mexico. There's no doubt in my mind, whoever found, if they found anything right here, they used a metal detector. So it's been in the last 20, 30 years. Of course, they've had metal detectors longer than that, but The newer ones have all these ground balancing systems, which make it a lot easier. But I could be right on top of where several tens of thousands of dollars in gold and silver was stashed. Too late. Well, I've got just a few seconds left on that tape. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. See my Christmas tree in the background. I haven't put the decorations up yet. Well, you can see my trailer down there, the corner of it. This is the back side of Robber's Roost. So long for now.